The movie starts with a lady walking along the road, making a phone call. It seems like she is talking to her best friend, and she tells the friend on the call that she's missing out on the donut she's eating. Suddenly, these girls approach the lady and ask for a picture. It seems like this lady is quite popular. Bella, the lady in question, takes a selfie with the girls, and just as she turns to leave, the most unbelievable thing happens. A car from nowhere comes crashing into her, ending her life on the spot. The shocking news of Bella Baylor's demise sends shivers down the necks of everyone in the modeling agency. It turns out Bella is indeed one of the top models in the country, and just like that, she is gone. We see a group of pretty girls, and one of them seems to be looking at posts of Bella. Her name is Zoe, and she's Bella's replacement. She is approached by another fine lady whose name is Nadia. They talk a bit about the current events, and Zoe mentions that although she's happy to be here, she wishes it was under better circumstances. This is Zoe's first gig, and she looks a bit uncomfortable. She asks Nadia if she knows Bella personally. Nadia tells her that although she knew her and did a few gigs together, they weren't especially close. Nadia tells Zoe to look over at a lady called Sydney. That is Bella's best friend and roommate. Sydney looks rather unbothered and is seen flaunting her beautiful body in a gorgeous bikini. The photographer then calls out to Nadia, indicating it is her turn for photographs. Nadia bids farewell to Zoe and promptly heads over. Later, Zoe goes to have her pictures taken, revealing her lack of familiarity with the process. After the photographer is done, they all view the pictures and are super excited when they see how attractive they are, especially Zoe. Her heart must be doing multiple flips right now, seeing as she just completed her first gig. But it isn't over just yet. They have one more shoot to take, and the photographer calls for Zoe to stand at the center. This is a big deal for Zoe because she's a newcomer, and yet they already want her to be at the center. This excitement is too much for her, and she misses a step and falls to the ground. We see a big black car, the type normally driven by politicians. The car drops Zoe off at this peculiar house, and Zoe walks in. She begins to call out for anyone who might be in the house, mentioning that she just came back from the hospital. Still, no answer of any sort. She takes some more steps into the house until she comes into a room. She looks around for a bit before Nadia walks in and tells her to switch rooms with her. They talk for a bit, and Nadia inquires about Zoe's leg. She responds that it's not too bad, and that's why the agency didn't just send her home. After some more small talk, Nadia gives Zoe a top, and Zoe goes into her room. After taking a shower, Zoe tries the top on, and she looks stunning. She's very self-aware in the top as she feels it's not her style. Nadia walks into the room, and as soon as she sets her eyes on Zoe, exclaims to her that the top is insane. She takes Zoe's phone and takes a picture of her. She is about to take another when a call rings on Zoe's phone. Nadia gives Zoe back the phone and tells her to meet them outside since everyone has been worried about her. Zoe takes the phone and has this weird expression on her face. She pockets the phone and quickly heads out to meet the whole gang of models, and they start interacting. They share their Instagram accounts, and Sydney mocks Zoe for not having up to 10,000 followers. This other girl chips in and tells her it's fine since she's just starting as a model. The girls interact even more, except for one model who is busy on the phone talking to her Spanish boyfriend. Zoe soon realizes that all these girls are glued to their phones. She begins to feel a bit uncomfortable, when suddenly she gets a notification saying an account called @GoodGuyClyde is trying to send a message. Due to boredom, she accepts it a little too quickly. The dude messages her immediately with the weirdest text ever. He said, "Don't let me be the one that got away." This is super strange, but Zoe replies that she isn't sure she knows who this person is. Then a guy makes a joke about her Instagram username, ProtoZoe, and asks her if she likes biology. She responds that she is a certified biology nerd. The guy sends her a link to a video, and she clicks on it. It starts playing this video of a female praying mantis. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think you're supposed to send these sorts of videos to a girl you're trying to get along with. Well, classic Zoe gets captivated and begins to enjoy the video very much. This piques Nadia's interest, and she scoots over to see what Zoe is watching. They talk a bit, and she tells her about the boy who is texting her. And they crack some rather dirty jokes about, well, you know, dirty stuff our parents wouldn't like us to discuss. The other models who are taking pictures finally return and see Zoe blushing like a child while texting. They all come over and ask Zoe to tell them about this new man. We know that this fellow isn't her man, and that's exactly what Zoe tells them. They make some more dirty remarks, and Sydney advises her that she isn't supposed to reply to every DM she gets. Nadia takes Zoe's phone to look at pictures of the guy on his Instagram, and she has this unexplainable expression on her face when she looks at it. Just then, someone knocks at the door. All the heads of the models turn towards the door, and they see that it is none other than Steven, Nadia's troublesome ex-boyfriend. They just broke up a couple of days ago, and she doesn't want to see him. But he is so persistent with the knocks that Nadia has no choice but to finally go out to talk to him. The girls bicker about how they're about to witness a rom-com, and the Spanish model, who has been on the phone with a man for hours, mutters to everyone that she doesn't have these types of problems with her king. What a show-off. Nadia goes out to see Steven, and I mean it when I say this guy creeps me out. He just keeps saying the most incorrect things, and for someone who wants to get his relationship back, he sure goes about it in the worst way possible. The discussion ends in an argument, and Nadia asks Steven to leave because the other models are already making fun of the whole situation, plus he is plain annoying. So he finally leaves, and Nadia walks back into the house and is hit with a surprise shot from the camera Zoe is holding. With everything that just happened between Nadia and her boyfriend, she doesn't seem to be in the mood, and just retires to her room. Meanwhile, Zoe goes to her room and receives a text from this number she saved as "Do Not Answer." The person wants to know where she is, and begs her to call him. Zoe begins to type a reply but quickly decides against it and drops her phone. Meanwhile, all the models are prepping to enter the jacuzzi dressed in their stunning bikinis, and Carla, the Spanish model, looks like she is molded with fire and brimstone because her body is to lay down one's life for. They get into the jacuzzi, and soon enough, Zoe joins them. They begin to play Truth and Dare. Oh, how I wish I was in the jacuzzi. Sydney dares Carla and Trudy to make out. Trudy is excited about it, but Carla says her boyfriend won't like that. Sydney then says Trudy should give Carla a peck, and this girl blows my mind by giving Carla a full-blown kiss. Even some couples don't kiss this deeply on their wedding day. Carla curses in Spanish and walks out of the jacuzzi. Nadia then asks Zoe the truth or dare question, and she picks the option of truth. Now, Nadia, being a silly nose poker, asks her who "Do Not Answer" is. There is a bit of uncomfortable silence after the question is thrown out, and Zoe breaks the silence by telling the models that it is her father. She explains her horrid past and how her mom was a victim of domestic. Her father wasn't the best because of how violent he was with his wife. Her mother had him arrested, divorced him, took Zoe, and moved away. Ever since then, he's been trying to reach out to Zoe, but she refuses to speak to him. After dropping this blockbuster of a story on the models, everywhere is pin drop silent, and thank God for Carla, because she saves the day by pulling up with some drinks for the girls to indulge in. Later that evening, Nadia apologizes to Zoe for bringing up her father, and proceeds to drop even more disturbing news. She tells Zoe that the guy she was speaking to, the one who sent her the praying mantis video, is not who he claims to be. Nadia let Zoe know that the guy also messaged her using a different name, so she suggested that it would be really good if Zoe took extra precautions. Just like clockwork, Zoe checks her phone to see that the guy left a text. At this point, if she isn't suspicious of this fellow, then maybe she has some screws loose. So the models call Zoe into the house, and they all have this small dance party where they play loud music. Honestly, I never knew models could have so much fun. They keep dancing and partying until Zoe knocks at the door. But the other models are too engrossed in their activities to notice. She goes to open the door and sees this fellow standing on the porch. He instantly voices his resentment towards the loud music they are playing and pleads that they turn the music down. It's at this point that Trudy shows up, and immediately our boy forgets the reason he came here in the first place and starts hitting on Trudy. She manages to make him go away without even giving him an apology. Honestly, as men, I say, we need to do better. The guy asks for her number, and she gives it to him. This worries Zoe a bit, who asks her why she gave it to him. She then confesses that she didn't give him her number, and soon after the guy leaves, he realizes this, when he looks at his hand and sees what she wrote on it. Angry and disappointed, with a gaze that spells revenge, he walks away. Meanwhile, Carla is live showcasing her body to the world. People are donating money to her, and she is loving the attention she's getting. Sydney walks into the room, and, upon seeing her gorgeous body, gets super jealous and starts throwing a tantrum like a child. She eventually goes outside the house, where Nadia comes to question why she behaved like that. Like the woman she is, she makes absolutely no sense with the things she says. Sydney confesses to being jealous of Carla. She says she wishes just once she could feel like a photographer is happy to see her and build a shoot around her. Nadia tells her to chill out. Sydney cries more about the fact that Bella never made her feel this way. But honestly, I don't get it. I don't get women. Nadia offers Sydney a smoke and tells her to relax. Sydney takes it and starts smoking, and soon enough, she's high and sees a car. This girl probably left her brain in the house because she walked right up to the suspicious car. This is where things get very serious. Sydney is hit with instant regret for her stupid actions when a masked man seizes her from behind, holds a gun to her head, and walks her into the house. She tries to struggle, but the fellow is stronger than she is. Before you know it, the masked guys have cornered Carla, Trudy, and Zoe, and have collected all 4 of their phones. It takes a moment, but then the masked female realizes that there are meant to be 5 models, and not 4. She then asks her accomplice to go search for Nadia. Right about now, Nadia already knows they are coming and tries to hide, but her efforts are fruitless because she is later caught and taken to the rest of the model gang. Carla thinks this is about her and her boyfriend, and tells the masked fellows that her man won't give them anything. The masked fellows almost laugh because this Latina couldn't have been more wrong at this point. So these guys have an elaborate plan. They plan to use the social media followers of the models to obtain money. They are going to set up a donation account and pretend that it is for Bella. Then they will post about it using the girls' devices so that their followers will start sending money to the untraceable account in the link they have posted. This is quite an elaborate plan, and if you look at these guys, you would think they must have thought this through. They plan to siphon $1 million, and the money is rolling in. The two thieves begin to discuss all the crazy things they will do with the money. Travel the world, and buy different cars. Ultimately, this should have been a harmless crime where nothing seriously bad happens if everyone complies. But I guess life has other plans for every single person involved. On the other hand, Nadia's ex, Steven, is looking at her Instagram and spots the link there. He decides he is going to donate $100 just to show Nadia he is capable. And this very petty man doesn't make an anonymous donation, but instead donates the money with his name boldly written. The thieves start getting impatient as the money isn't coming in as fast as they thought it would. They just passed $40,000, but their goal is $1 million. So they get creative and ask which one of the models would like to strip for the viewers so that they would donate more money. Trudy agrees and starts doing this very ridiculous dance. The strip dancing is so bad that it risks some of the fans asking for their money back. The thieves eventually realize they are probably not going to get anywhere with Trudy, and that's when the actual supermodel with the body of an Egyptian goddess, Carla, says she will do it. She starts, and boy is the dance going so well. But Carla has elaborate plans of her own because 30 seconds into the dance, she starts yelling for help, and the masked female laughs so badly in her face while telling her that she didn't hit the live button, so she wasn't recording anything. Panicking, Carla pushes the lady and reaches for her phone. She gets the phone and starts yelling for help again, and this time the masked woman hits Carla's head with a gun. She falls, hits her head on the edge of the table, and folks, that is the end of Carla. The models can't believe it, and the masked criminals can't either. Zoe starts crying, and the other masked guy has had enough. He tells the female he wants to leave because they just went from making a few harmless dollars from model followers to being guilty of a felony charge. Somehow, this devil incarnate of a woman manages to convince the man that they should stay for one more hour, and the lover boy agrees. It seems like these criminals are a couple. Things take a very interesting turn when Steven comes back to the model house with his car. Immediately he parks outside, and the criminals enter a state of severe panic and move the girls behind the kitchen counter. Steven walks up to the door, and as soon as he rings the doorbell, for the first time since this horrible movie began, we see the face of the masked fellow because he's the one who comes to meet him at the door. Steven asks for Nadia, but the guy tells him to leave, saying there is no one like Nadia here. Things get a little heated, and Steven does leave, but he calls Nadia, and it goes directly to voicemail. He gets even more worried, and decides to hang around for about 30 minutes. When he sees that there is no movement in the house, he goes around the back, and that's when he sees that the girls are tied up behind the kitchen counter. He quickly pulls out his phone to call the police, but then the guy who answered him at the door comes out prepared to attack him. Without wasting even a moment, Steven throws his phone at the guy, causing a distraction, and struggles with him. He is finally able to collect the gun. With a gun to the guy's head, he leads him into the house and tells the other masked lady to drop her gun. I think the worst is finally over, and my respect for Steven goes above the ceiling. Then it happens. From nowhere, a bullet comes crashing into Steven's brain, ending him on the spot. But who fires the shot? Who else is there? This scene is so intense. A black man emerges from the shadows, and I don't need anyone to tell me this man is hazardous. I mean, he isn't even wearing a mask. The bullet scrapes the ear of the guy, now that he has taken off his mask. The girls have seen his face. The black guy tells him to clean himself up, saying he is getting blood on the floor. Sydney uses this opportunity to pick up the gun that the female criminal dropped and points it at the thieves, asking them to allow her to escape. Of course they don't, and before you know it, all the girls are back to being tied up, with Sydney taken to a special place. We see the initial two thieves discussing, and the lady finally takes off her mask. She tells him that Flip, the black guy, is the only person capable of clearing all their DNA from the house. At this point, we understand that Flip and the female thief are foster siblings, and they have $50,000 untraceable dollars they have siphoned from the followers of the girls. Flip ties the legs of all three girls so they can't move, except Zoe, who still has a cast on her leg. He then proceeds to work clearing all their DNA from the house. The other models beckon Zoe to go pick up his gun and shoot him, saying there is probably no way they will let her live now after seeing their faces. So Zoe walks quietly and takes the gun, but as she tries to turn to come back, she hits something. It falls and makes a loud noise. She tries to rush back to her spot on the floor, but she's slow, and Flip catches up to her, throws her on the floor, and proceeds to put a cloth in her mouth. At the same time, we understand that Sydney saw the face of the female thief, and because of that, this maniac of a woman throws poor Sydney into the fire to burn. The guy who had his earshot walks in on Flip about to end Zoe's life and wrestles him, obviously noting the fact that further bloodshed is unnecessary. Only if he knew what his lover did to Sydney. Nadia sees the chaos and seizes the opportunity to try to pick up the gun Zoe dropped. The female thief walks into the room, sees what Nadia is doing, and rushes to her, hoping to take the gun from her. Nadia fires a shot, and the bullet hits the female thief. Now things become very interesting. The two men stop fighting and rush to the female, who is losing blood. Even though the guy wants to take her out of the house at the moment, the only thing she wants is her money. The two men go to further clean up and leave the bleeding thief to watch over the girls. She is losing blood, and she is losing consciousness. At that moment, Nadia remembers she has a lighter in her pocket, and the idea hits her to use the lighter to burn the ropes. Finally, they do so, and they start their elaborate plan. Trudy calls out for Flip and tells him that she wants to go number 2. Flip is very hesitant at first, but soon agrees, and walks closer to the girl to release her. As soon as he is in attackable range, the girls lunge at him, with Trudy hitting him in the groin. Trudy manages to hide behind a counter. Zoe bolts out the front door, and Nadia runs towards a door. But it seems the devil is out for her because, unluckily, that door is locked. Flip eventually catches Nadia, and she screams for Zoe to run, but it seems adrenaline forgot to enter her body because she is limping profusely. And I get it. It's because of her injury. Sadly, Zoe doesn't make it far. The other thief begs her to stop running, and when she doesn't, he shoots her before she can make her escape. The fire that Sydney is thrown into manages to burn the ropes before it can give her serious burns, and she escapes the fire. Flip takes Nadia into the house, and he starts screaming that Trudy should come out unless he will shoot Nadia. Trudy quietly brings out a kitchen utensil, and damn, this girl has good aim because she throws it. And it hits Flip right at the point where David's little stone hits Goliath, right in the forehead. He tumbles and releases Nadia, who tries to escape. But the bleeding female thief isn't ready to give up just yet. She hops on Nadia and starts strangling the poor girl. At that moment, Sydney shows up with a rope and strangles the thief. She drags her around and ultimately strangles the wicked thief to his demise. May her soul not rest in peace. Trudy tries to escape through the garage, but Flip is pursuing her. This has to be the slowest garage door I have ever seen in my life. It opens so slowly, giving Flip enough time to pick up this weapon and dig it into her body. Then the other guy walks back into the house and sees his lover deceased. He cries, and that's when Nadia and Sydney ambush him. Things take quite a rather interesting turn when Zoe comes back from the afterlife. Okay, not literally. It's safe to assume the guy is terrible at shooting. She rushes to a nearby house and begs for help. After ending Trudy's life, Flip walks back into the house to see Nadia and Sydney have already ambushed him. This guy is psycho because even though they are holding a gun to his head, he doesn't fret. Instead, he makes Sydney panic, and she fires at him, but she misses. Then she realizes that the gun is empty. No more bullets. Flip doesn't even think 3 times before pulling his gun and releasing the bullet into Sydney's head. Now only Nadia is left. And if I am to be honest, I don't think I have ever seen a heist go so wrong. Nadia hides under a table and picks up a piece of a broken glass cup, and quietly, she appears at Flip's back and leaves the glass in his eye. I have never been prouder, but my pride is short-lived when Flip kicks her back. And before you know it, they are struggling. You'd expect Nadia to have brains and run, and not struggle with someone who is 5 times stronger than she is. It ends badly for Nadia. Flip stabs her with a knife, and that is it. She is gone. All the models are gone, except Zoe, of course. Speaking about Zoe, at this point she comes back into the house. Luckily for her, Flip has lost too much blood and falls flat. I'm assuming he has given up the ghost. Zoe says she has already called the cops, and she and this thief engage in a conversation where he tells her he didn't want any of them to get hurt, and that his lover was obsessed with the models. And the only reason they were able to track their location was because of the link to the praying mantis video that Zoe opened. He reveals everything, and Zoe is so mad. She is so upset that she is the cause of all this. If she hadn't accepted the request from good guy Clyde, they might not have been in this mess. She picks up a gun and goes to look for the female thief's body. This guy tells her she has already lost her life, but she is furious beyond reasoning. She finally finds the body in the hallway and is about to pull the trigger when the police vehicle comes. She decides to just get out of the house, and the police enter and arrest the thief who is alive and start looking for any survivors. This movie is so painful to watch, and it gets even worse. In the next scene, we are taken back to that same hallway, but the body of the female thief is missing. Sadly, she gets away.